You ever hear the story, or as a kid, I should say, your parents from day one tell you, don't touch the stove because it's hot and it's going to burn you. And they tell you repeatedly, over and over, don't touch the stove, it's hot, don't touch it, it's hot, you're going to get burned. That's one of those life lessons that when you finally get burned, it's a moment of clarity, an instant moment of extreme pain, but clarity, where you realize that it's hot and you get burnt. But it sticks with you the rest of your life. Now, leading up to that moment, you might walk by the stove as a kid, and you walk by, oh, there's a stove. I wonder if they're just messing with me. Is it hot? So what do? You get closer, closer, closer. But eventually, you touch it. And when you do, it may not have burned you enough. So you get braver and you touch it again. And maybe it hurt a little bit more, but not quite that bad. Until one day, you're running through the house and you really touch it. And instantly you're in an astronomical amount of pain. And you get that blistering burn that's there for a long time, and it's going to leave a nasty scar. But that's the moment you realize. Never touch the stove. Because it hurts. And for all the fellas out there, that stove, that flame on your stove or on your grill, because the grill's no different, that flame is just like the flame in your woman's heart. You respect it. You use it for whatever you can. Make your food. Nurture you, provide for you. Because without that flame, it's just a stove. Or it's just a grill. So you learn not to touch it. That's a lesson that I learned the hard way. I spent 9 years married to a wonderful woman. About 11 years total together. But like that kid that never learned his lesson, I kept poking at it. Poking at the stove, poking at the fire. Seeing what could I get away with? And eventually, I got burned. And it hurt. It hurts real bad. But, like I said before, there's that moment of clarity. Where you realize everything you were doing up until that point was wrong. Was not the right way. And that's where the healing process starts. Because just like any burn, it's going to heal. And it's going to hurt. Healing process hurts. It's like, if you get an abscessed tooth or something like that, you go to the dentist and they say they gotta pull it out. And the tooth is sitting there and it's throbbing, it's hurting so bad. And that moment comes where they pull it. And you know that it's going to hurt when they pull it. But for a split second, you get that relief. That, oh my God, you just feel great. But just like that tooth, you got to heal. And the healing process sucks. But in the end, you're better for it. The definition of insanity is doing the exact same thing, the exact same way, and expecting a different result every time. Which, looking back, blows my mind that anybody would ever do that. But like any scientist or inventor or something, you have to fail over and over again before you start seeing things, before you start realizing things. And it's going to be one epic failure that brings you to that moment where you realize you were driving yourself insane. And it's a hard moment. But in that moment, you realize, you don't get the answers. You don't figure it out right away. You don't just change what you're doing. But it opens doors. It pushes you in a direction that shows you so many different ways, so many different reasons why you were wrong, reasons why certain things you did might have been right, how you could do it differently, what you can do differently. And it's up to you, up to myself, as people, to put those things together, to reinvent ourselves, come up with a new plan, change things, change the way you live, change the way you think. And it's not easy. It's not an overnight process, but it's a painful process where you keep failing. And the more you fail, the more you learn, until eventually you get it right. Now, in a relationship, that can mean a whole lot of different things. It can mean losing relationships. It can mean destroying relationships, destroying people, destroying yourself. It can mean so many different things, but every time you learn something. And eventually, you do get it right. Which is where I'm at with my marriage. I did so many things wrong. Drove myself insane trying to keep doing the same thing and expecting everything to be alright. And when you do that, every time you fail, it leaves a little scar on your partner, your wife, your girlfriend, husband, boyfriend, whatever it is. The only difference between your scars and their scars is I learned, for most of us that cause the pain, the scars don't necessarily go away, but they stop hurting after a while. But with the ones that we hurt, their scars don't stop hurting. Over time, their scars get bigger. Sometimes they hurt more. Until eventually, they're so damaged that they just cut the broken parts off. And the only person you can be mad at for something like that is yourself, because you did the damage. Long story short, don't touch the stove.